So thanks everyone for joining us this morning. This is the first presentation that Hillsborough Downtown Partnership has put together, and with cooperation from the City of Hillsborough, and we have Carla Antonini on here, and she helped organize this. I'm Elisa Joy Payne from the Hillsborough Downtown Partnership, and I'd like to welcome our guest speakers for getting back in the game this morning. Seanette Corkill and Anne-Marie Luthro are here, and they both work for Frontdoor Back, which is a store design, visual merchandising, and research firm that focuses on helping independent retailers, like many of you are, find the ways to connect with your customers from before they walk in your store to when they walk in their store, and even after they've gone home with their wonderful purchases. So I'm going to let them give a little bit of intro about themselves, and then we'll get rolling into this presentation. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to add them to the chat, and we will post this recorded presentation soon on our website and send it out in an email to all of the downtown businesses and some of our other economic vitality partners. So over to you, Seanette.
Thank you, EJ, for the introduction. And Carla, thanks for making this happen. Or actually, both of you guys for making this happen. I think it's a really important piece of the support that downtown Hillsborough, or the City of Hillsborough, is providing. And information and knowledge is power. And putting this this whole getting back in the game series of information came about in terms of, it's not just about the rules and regulations, of which there are a lot of things that we have to keep track of, phases and spaces and cleaning procedures, but we wanted to help retailers get a grasp and get a handle on the psychological components of what their shoppers, what we all are going through right now, and that understanding what those big factors are in terms of our shopping behaviors and just how we're going to start engaging in the public. When we know what they want, then we know how to provide it for them, and so that no matter what kind of retailer you are, you're going to be empowered to make a better decision about where to have curbside pickup or how to have your hand sanitizer. All these little tiny details are going to become clear because you've got information about what it is your shoppers are thinking and feeling. And then we're going to go into some specifics too. So thanks again for asking us to contribute this information, because we love helping, we love Main Street. So what can we do to help you? So within that, we've broken it down into a couple big sections. We've got big picture, and Anne-Marie's going to start with that. And then I'm going to come in later and go over some of the shopper journey and the specifics about how to execute these things once we know what we're thinking and feeling. So Anne-Marie.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. It's very nice to see everybody. So when we're talking about getting back in the game, there are a lot of things that we need to take a look at that shadow everything that we're talking about. So for example, there is a general pervasive feeling of anxiety out in culture right now. We are anxious about so many things. We're anxious about the economy. The first thing that you can do as shoppers coming into the store to quell that anxiety is to remember that the onus is on you to keep it clean and safe. And that is what the expectation is, that you're going to keep it clean and safe, and you're going to show us and tell us how you're keeping it clean and safe. And we suggest a really theatrical display of this, like leaving, of course you're going to have the hand sanitizer out, but maybe leaving the Lysol wipes out. Really being theatrical, and then being demonstrative of how you're being safe. So if you're serious, about a mask, then your staff all wears masks, and they don't pull them down just to have a quick conversation. They're using best practices with their masks. So you're really walking the walk. Because the point is, we want to meet people where they are. If they're anxious and they have these expectations, we want to meet them psychologically and figuratively. They're a little bit confused right now. We don't exactly know how we're supposed to shop, what's allowed and what isn't allowed. So that's where we meet them with what we can control and store to help quell them. And then literally, when we talk about meeting the customer where they are, we are talking about literally meeting at the curb or at their porch or where everybody is online right now. So this is the most time we've spent online ever as a country. And that is where your customers are. So Seanette's going to talk about how we can go to them and how they come to you. So meeting the customers where they are is important in helping them feel that you're in control. So something that is not going to last forever, but that we're seeing right now in stores is that there is a definite mission shopping mindset. So there isn't a lot of shopping for entertainment. Shoppers aren't coming to stores just to look around and just to browse. They're coming to you for a thing. We've been asked not to make essential trips, so we're not. I mean, we're only, if we go to the store, it's because we're out of milk. That's an essential reason. Some of the things that this means for the store, for shopping behavior, is that the time in store may be a little bit shorter and that there may be fewer shoppers, but the likelihood of buying is probably higher because they're coming in for something specific. So hopefully you have that specific thing that they're coming in for. And it's also the way that we shop. COVID has impacted definitely the way that we shop. Typically we shop by looking and then touching and then trying and then checking the price and checking for information. And if we can get through those things, we get to the buy. But right now our hands are tied. We've been, you know, we're trying not to touch as few things as possible. We're trying to shop with we're encouraging shoppers to use their eyes to shop. So there's still a lot of looking, but there's less touching and trying. So price is really often a determining factor. And we suggest that anytime you can pull that price out, that you help shoppers get to what they need and get the information that they need. So they're mission shopping. So that leads us to this concept of access versus excess. And this just simply means that you need to focus on getting them to the product, not inundating them with other product. So it's focusing on your core offering and your profit center. And this may mean some remerchandising in the store. It may simply mean taking out a fixture or moving some fixtures around, or it may mean taking product off of a fixture. But this concept of access versus excess, we're going to use this in a couple different ways. It really helps the mission shopper, which is what we're focusing on right now. And it can help in keeping that 6-foot berth around shoppers that we're suggesting in the store. So that's access versus excess. So the way that we're shopping, a lot of us have been shopping online. So we've been getting our packages delivered to us. Now that's not new. This form of fulfillment is not necessarily new, but it is much more common now than it was. And we're also seeing things that were new and less common becoming more common. So for example, porch drops were not common. You know, retailers doing porch drops now. That's a really convenient fulfillment method for shoppers. We're doing curbside pickup. We're doing BOPIS, which is buy online, pick up in store, where the shopper just pops in for a second. And these things probably won't go away. These are all things that COVID has affected and transformed and really accelerated. All of these trends of shopping online, these fulfillment trends, they've all been accelerated by COVID, and we don't see them going away, especially these fulfillment methods when we go back to the quote unquote normal. The other thing that we don't think is going to go away and shouldn't go away is this concept of concierge service. And to quell your shoppers, you have to do all that you can online and out there to get them into your store. But once they're in your store, maybe they don't want to come in your store. So you have to bend over backwards and think of ways that you can serve your client. So whether it's, you know, a clothing store picking out 6 outfits and dropping them on someone's porch so they can shop them at home and then leave them back on their porch so we can pick them up and take what they don't want. These types of things didn't even occur to us before. We just had the shoppers come in the store, shop what they wanted, pay for themselves and leave. So these concierge services are convenient, and it just shows what we can do. It shows how much above and beyond retailers can do, and shoppers are really enjoying this better service. So that's something that is heightening the service game, and that's gonna have to stay. We're gonna have to stay at the top of our game. I mean, I know we all think we're at the top of our game with service, and we should have been, but this really has tested us and showed us. So it's upping everyone's service games. And then lastly, the big picture that's shadowing everything is signage. Signage has just exploded, and Seanette and I have a lot to say about signage. We typically don't like a lot of signage. We like shoppers to show us what's happening instead of telling us what's happening. But in this case, there's so much new and there's so much different that you have to have signage to address what your operating standards are, how you're operating, how I shop you. And we also typically really are against taping up signs anywhere. We think tape is a 4-letter word, but we get it. Right now, some of these signs are so urgent that you just have to tape them up and get them up there. But know that the signage that you're taping up, much of it is going to stay, and you only get forgiveness for a little bit. After you've had a sign taped up for a month or longer, it's probably time to get an actual sign, to have a sign printed. And a couple of things to remember about signage is the signage scale is really important. It has to be big enough to be able to read from where your shopper is. Are they at the curb? Are they at the front door? Are they at the cash wrap? So scale is really important. The font is really important, the font choice that you use. So back to that access versus excess, try to keep it as clean and clear a font as possible so I can get to the information I need and there's nothing superfluous there. That's access versus excess. And then the signage positioning, of course, is very important. But if it's not the right size and I can't read it, it doesn't matter where it's put or what it says, right? So the positioning and the content, of course, is key, but that comes last. It doesn't matter how great your content is unless you have a sign that somebody can read. So those are some big picture issues that we see that sort of shadow everything that we're going to talk about through here. And Seanette's going to go through those 3 parts of the store. And the other thing that we think is really important that we didn't write down here, but it's always important to us, and even now more than ever, is 2 little words, and that's thank you. And just as we thank you for being here, it's really important that you are thanking your shoppers, especially important now because they're jumping hurdles to shop you, to buy from you. So it's really important that in your signage, at your receipts, at your cash wrap, when you drop off, and your thank you notes, whatever it is, wherever you're meeting your customer where they are, that you make sure to thank them. So those are the big picture things. And Seanette's going to start talking about how to meet your shopper before the store. And that is primarily online. Like I said, we're online more than we ever have been as a society. So what's the best practice for before the store?
Cool. Thank you. And we will call back those big picture things. That'll be sprinkled throughout the content that I go through. And when we organize this information about the specifics at the store, because when we evaluate spaces, we walk through your stores just like a shopper would, kind of like a secret shopper, and say, let's really analyze this journey. So we broke that down into where are people now? They're at home. So let's look at all the information that happens, what's happening before you get to the store, because we couldn't even go to the store then. And then at the store, we still can't go inside, but we're there, curbside or BOPUS. And then we're just now getting allowed to go back in. So that's the next part of our journey. And I want us to keep in mind too, that even though we can go in some instances, do we want to go in? There's the other half of it. So even though you can, you have to acknowledge that some shoppers still won't. They'll still feel comfortable outside. So let's move forward. And when we're talking about being online, there's 2 halves of the same coin. One of them is shoppers are looking for you. The first half of it was we can't go to your store, and we're online trying to get a hold of you. I think one of the best things that retailers could do is Google yourself and go through every place that you pop up, Facebook, your website, maybe it's Yelp or your Instagram account, anywhere that you are found, you have to make sure that you have updated that information with the same urgency and accuracy that you put on a handwritten sign that said, hey, we're closed temporarily. We're going to be, we're by appointment only. Here's this phone number to call. Everything has to be exactly right and consistent so that I trust, it reduces my anxiety, that I trust when everything looks the same, okay, you've got a handle on it. And then all those points of contact that you're updating, you also have to make sure Instagram, all right, who's managing the DMs or the texts? If you have a phone number, are you going to answer the phone, or do you have some staff that's answering the phone? You've got to make sure that you have everything assigned, because even though I'm reading it online, I still might pick up my phone and call you and say, let me just make sure, because those hours may or may not be current. Sometimes, you know, the Google Places, did you really update that yesterday? Everything's changing so fast that we look for that personal interaction for reassurance. So you as a retailer have to make sure that you are absolutely responsive. That concierge mentality, let me make sure I'm answering you however it is that you want to get a hold of me. So that's really important in terms of them coming to you. And also right now, if you didn't have an online presence, now's the best time. I think everybody's stood up some online ordering and some other aspects really, really fast, because that really was our marketplace. And if you didn't have something, you created it, or maybe you started it, and now you're going to go back and refine it. But you've got to be online, and you've got to be accurate, and you've got to be consistent. Even go through and take a look at your images and make sure that your brand and your logo or the picture of your store is consistent. So I can be reassured when I'm like, oh yeah, that is the store. That's the place that I shop. So I know that I found the right website or the right social media. On the other side of it, so that was customers coming, trying to find you and get information and interact with you. Now it's your turn to reach back out to them, let them know that you're open, or when you're going to be open and how you're going to be open. So it's a great chance to be proactive. In that regard, what was I going to say about that? Let's talk about this example that I have here of a Framer's Touch, who reached out to her customers in an email. And the great thing that she's done over the years is that she's generated her own customer base. And if you didn't have a customer base yesterday, in terms of, not customer base, a customer database, if you didn't have their emails or phone numbers or addresses yesterday, today's the next best day to start that list, because that became her lifeline to be able to communicate on an outgoing, proactive basis to say, here's what's happening with me and how you can support me. So in her email that she sent out, this is a screenshot of the big piece, the big view of it. So one positive, proactive message. And she also created a link in there so you could go back and shop her store. So here I am, happy to see you. And here's a way to come back and shop because of the online link. Second of all, she was very specific about her hours and providing you useful information about the state of things that are happening. This is in Oregon, out in Forest Grove. I also like that she put a link to her other social media, which is Facebook. So she's reinforcing all of her different platforms. So she's telling you what she's doing. And then she also says, very simply, here's how we would like you to interact with us, the safety guidelines. And so you're creating expectations and having that conversation before the shopper gets back to the store. And that starts to, it reduces my anxiety in terms of what am I supposed to do and how am I supposed to do it? So all of these are quelling my concerns about how this is going to work going forward. And then on the last part, since she has your attention, she's going to promote a product. And it's relevant to what somebody right now would need. It's not get 50% off your family album framing. It is something topical to what's happening in the marketplace right now. And these dishcloths are a perfect example. So she's not missing an opportunity, and it's not an excess of things. She's promoting one thing, not 20 things. So I just thought it was a great piece of communication, and that hit all the important things, and then you were done. And she sent it out just a couple days in advance, not a week before, and just not the night before. So it was time for me to plan enough timing that I'm like, great, I'll remember it, and she's not spamming me. We also have there's a retailer that Anne Marie and I are just fans of out in Multnomah Village, and it's called JP General. And they seem to do just about everything right. and this example, their channel, it's tough as a small business to maintain all the different type of social media. And when you are overwhelmed, I think it's great to pick a channel. And if Facebook is where your customers are, then do that really well. If Instagram is where your shoppers are, just do Instagram and just do it really well. And they do Instagram as their channel very, very well. And they have, because we can't touch anymore to pick things up, their photographs are so good that I feel like I know what the texture and the weight or even the scent of a leather wallet is, because they have gotten so good at taking those images. And so that's something that you as a retailer, when you're out there promoting your product, you're going to be thinking about how you can provide a surrogate, given that we don't get to touch things anymore and you're promoting your product. And they're reaching out online. Let's see here. I know how to drive forward. I do. I also like the fact that they are proactively reinforcing, stay in touch. Here's how you can be in touch. Here's the phone number to call. Here's the email to send. And they're also promoting that they too have a concierge level of outreach, that they will drop things on your porch and that they will be answering the phone. And they don't just put it in text, they put a phone in there too. It's a great show versus just tell. I know that square is going to be telling me just pick up the phone and call. And it's just always, it's clean and not cluttered. So people are coming to you, your shoppers are coming to you. Make sure they can find you, make sure you are responsive and you answer to them. And then also you need to go out to them, pick the lane or pick the channel that you are best at and that your shoppers are there, and get good at it. And then be timely and be informative. Anne-Marie, any other summaries that you might have?
I think one of the key things that's most important is just to get the word out that you're open and how you're open and what your standard operating procedures are right now. Okay,
cool, thank you. At the store, first of all, we do, Sammy just said, that's perfect segue. You do need to look open. This is a bit extreme in some of this, but at the very beginning of COVID, do you guys remember seeing pictures of stores that boarded themselves up, almost like a hurricane is coming? And in response to that, artists started decorating that. We don't, as shoppers, like walls, and you don't know if that's gonna, those boards are gonna be up permanently or just temporarily. So it's just a sense of anxiousness. Your windows in the district are the bellwether of a shopper's evaluation of the district. They're going to decide if this district is current and if it's for them, if it's healthy, based upon what they can see in the windows. Your paint could be peeling. Maybe you need to go sweep your sidewalk. Even if your signage light is out, we might forgive that if your windows look like they're current and something's happening in there. And so when we kill this lung for a district where we're having this exchange of information, I can see in, you can see out, by just papering over and boarding it up, it makes all of us anxious, and it starts to have us turn back away from Main Street and back onto our phones. So just not a good message. But if you feel that you need to have it, that's why people responded with art. And even that little picture I have over there with the tic-tac-toe, we're human. We want engagement and dialogue, and somebody was using that platform to create some sort of dialogue by putting the tic-tac-toe up there. It's just that's just us as humans. We want to interact with you visually, even though we can't be there physically. And with that, I also think it's important that you make sure you keep your lights on, and that you even if the door is shut, don't look like you're going, just don't look like you're going out of business. Let's see here. So at the store, we're observing you online. As we drive through the district, we're going out to get our toilet paper and our milk, and we're driving by your store, and we're looking forward to when we can come back to see your store. And hopefully your store is still looking like it's going to be there. And then when we get to the curb, I think it could be, if everybody in the district had their own drop or curbside pickup zone, it could be kind of overwhelming. But I do think it is important to designate where we need to go. And with an explosion of signage that we have, everything's just got, do this, don't do this, we're going to be open here, here's the phases. It just gets overwhelming. And the signage at the curbside, when we start, now that we started to venture back out, is important that it be branded. So it's a wayfinding, it's a signage best practice and a wayfinding approach. We can use colors and large simple text to help us understand where we need to go, because it's such an overabundance of signage. We need to start sorting through all the clutter and go, that's where I need to go for that particular store, and it makes me less anxious when I get there. These are some approaches to helping designate, once I start coming back to the district, where I should go. I don't know if some of you may have heard previous presentations where we talked about your district as a store, and that if that is so, the streets and the sidewalks are like the aisles. The buildings that are in the downtown district are like the fixtures, and you, the retailers inside those buildings, are actually the product. And so we talk about how people circulate through the downtown district, going from store to store on the streets and the sidewalks. Well, literally, because we're not going in the stores anymore, your district is the store. We are conducting commerce outside at the curb, and we are bringing our wayfinding signage all the way out to our aisles, which are now the sidewalks and the streets, before we get to go back in the store. This is Carla. I think you've got your signs out now. Probably they have to be out now. She sent days ago, weeks ago, she sent me, said, here's what's happening. So this is what is great. I think it's fantastic that you are providing some continuity. So when you're in the downtown Hillsborough district, you can figure out, no matter what store it is, there's the pickup zone. So it reduces confusion. And this is what Vancouver just got done putting out the other day to help identify their curbside pickup zones. So those are getting sprinkled all around downtown. And then the retailers within the block are all using that same curbside pickup zone. So it is, one per block. So we don't get overwhelmed and lose all of the parking. It's just like, there's the zone, and everybody, you're just there for a couple of minutes, and the retailers are bringing the product out to the store. So we're getting good turnover, just like you have your 10-minute limit in there. I alluded to this earlier. You've got to look like you're open. You're not. People can't come in, but you're still around. And lighting and changing your window, having good lighting, so that they know somebody's home. Just like leaving the porch light on. And then changing the windows out is very important too, because that's the only message board place that we have to interact with. That's where we're taping our signs up, because that's the one place where we get to communicate with one another. And even changing your windows out now more frequently reassures us that somebody is home. So it's almost even more important now that you understand that your windows are communicating with the outside world. So keep them updated, and just keep it refreshed with greater frequency. At the store, this is JP General, they moved their sandwich board outside, and even though you can't walk in, I know somebody's home because somebody had to be there to put the sandwich board outside. And then if you do approach the door, there's additional information about how you can knock, or what the process is for being able to come in and pick up your products. So I just thought it was a great way to say we're still here, even though you can't come in. Anne-Marie, was there anything else about this picture? I feel like there was.
No, I think they did a good job. Their hours are different now that they're open. They are open, and their hours are a little bit different. So what they're doing is making sure that they're using their window of their door as a third window. And every night they rotate, they pull a table up to that door and pull product up. So there are more hours for window shopping. So there's more things for people to window shop.
Yeah. That was the thing that I was trying to remember to say. So the fact that the sidewalks are the new store aisles, since your district is the store now. This is where we're going to be absorbing information. And I just thought this made me smile. And it was also where I'm going to see it, and just understand the power of your store. Your store platform is outside now too. It's not just inside the front door. So we're also, as the weather gets nicer and restrictions are relaxed, being able to take your product outside. Also, in the plein air shopping is also going to be a great opportunity to introduce opportunities for sale versus having to have people queue inside. These, I apologize for these photos. I wondered if maybe they didn't download completely, because it was nice and crisp. This is a picture, albeit a bit blurry, but this is in downtown Vancouver. This blue canopy that is suggested in this blurry photo is basically the ice cream store brought their festival tent and just put it in the front of their store. They moved a cash register outside, and they took orders right there and had somebody go inside, and basically the store, the restaurant, became the back of house warehouse, and they were taking orders right there on the sidewalk. So this is just an example of the fact that the commerce is going outside versus back inside anymore. The outdoors is the new realm. And think how successful farmers markets are with a 10 by 10 tent and people walking through there. So we're just going to have to rethink how our physical space is being used. Back to a clear photograph. Oh my gosh, that last one kind of hurt my eyes a little bit. The power of your windows. I don't know that Starbucks ever thought that they were going to be propping their menus up in there, but because they've got a window, they were able to accommodate shoppers that were queuing outside to place an order, and they brought the menus to them. And then, of course, somebody got their chalk pen out and wrote a little sign up there too, in terms of mobile pickup and open and whatnot to reassure. But your windows are an important piece of your storefront that you have to leverage to your best advantage, whether it's a display or it's messaging or it is the new backdrop to your cash wrap. At the store as well, in terms of staging and look, don't touch and social distancing, and we're marking the floor and helping people understand where they could stand. I love the fact that at the farmers market, they, instead of just putting X's or tape on the ground, they got chalk and put their bee on the floor for you to stand on. And I thought it was a great opportunity to brand. And these things that are going to be residual, things that are going to stay in the store environment after COVID, I think you need to understand how best to personalize it versus just having generic. We started with functional blue painter's tape on the floor, and we're going to advance to, the decals with the shoes in them, stand here, wait here, or a fun bee. I thought this was a great example that we got off of a United Kingdom website, and this is McDonald's creating burger buns at appropriate distances, and so they took the opportunity to have those wait stations branded with their sesame seed tops. It also kind of gives you a sense of buffering around it too. And your windows. So if you're managing and metering who's coming in your store, people are going to be either looking at your windows or your neighbor's windows. So either way, we're going to be standing outside waiting. And if your windows have something engaging in them, it makes the wait time, when people have something to read or to look at or to watch, what have you, it reduces their perception of time. And they kind of forget, oh, did we wait 5 minutes or was it 3? You just lose track of time when you get engaged with other things. So there's the power of a good window by you or your neighbors to give people some sort of engagement. And here is that, this is what we would like to see if people are queuing outside on Main Street. Take the opportunity to talk to them. And I also think in knowing that this store understood the mission of their shoppers at that time was to come in and buy these things for making masks. And because they want you in and out of the store quickly, they posted on there in advance of you going in your store, by the way, we don't have these things, so you can plan your trip accordingly inside. And to me, I found this very, very useful, so that I knew, well, I'm not even going to look for these things, and I'm going to already be thinking about what else can I find as a substitute. And it was an appropriate place for this information, and it was an understanding as a customer service for everybody what you're not going to find in there. It's just very, very topical. Absolutely forgive them taping that up. And we went to get dinner one night, and as we're waiting outside, we went to go pick it up. The neighbor had put this in their window because they knew there was, because they're next to a restaurant, they just knew they were going to have people waiting out there, and it was an opportunity for me to see the Penzi Spice. It told me where to shop, how to shop, and that, by the way, yes, we are open. So they used the windows appropriately, and they brought the information forward. They knew I'm going to be standing there at the window versus trying to read it from a car. So this signage is appropriate because it was pedestrian oriented. Windows show support. If you are, if you're not Starbucks and you've got your menus in the window, I think, and you're changing your window displays out, I think there's some content right now that I think is reassuring and shows solidarity. We loved seeing this support for the essential workers. This was another one in terms of, we're going to get through this. There's going to, it's going to be better on the far side. So the messaging was lovely. This image shows their understanding and outreach to somebody that is across the street. And one thing with window displays is you have to understand who your audience is and where they're seeing you and at what rate of, are they driving by or are they walking by? So I appreciated that this display and this message was could be read from a distance. And it's an opportunity for us to shine as Main Street districts, just to show that we're the local that everybody wants to support, and we appreciate their support, and vice versa. This retailer is giving their support back. And those are some cute dresses. I just thought it was very simple and effective. So let's go in the store. We've ventured out. We need to understand how to navigate the district. There are wayfinding things for curbside pickup. And as we're going through the district, we're still seeing who's here, how are they doing, the window, they're open. I mean, they're still in business even though we can't go inside. So it's reassuring that we've got somebody to support when we are allowed to go back in. Let's go inside JP General on the way back in. This is one of the owners there with his dog. I don't remember the dog's name. But first of all, we used to talk about, as part of and we still will, in terms of how to activate and improve your storefronts, creating a custom door pull, because we wanted to create this sense of personalized customization and a sense of anticipation. We're going to grab the door pull. It's going to be look already, it's lovely. I'm going to walk inside, and now we're going to go, I don't want to touch that door pull. So customer service now is leaving the door open. And we've seen a lot of rocks in Main Street propping doors open. Utilitarian function, but this store took that rock and made it theirs. So all these functional pieces that are in your environment, how can you brand them and make it yours? And that helps create a memorable experience that Main Street's known for, that in terms of experience, curation, creativity. So let's get inside. And there's a terminology that we use often. It has to do with understanding the store environment. There is a, Anne-Marie, I might have you jump back in. We've got a decompression zone, which is an area that people walk through when they first get inside a store. And they're not shopping immediately left and right as they're going through there. They're just trying to get their phone put back in, they're taking their sunglasses off, and they're getting ready to walk in and say, okay, so where is this store? If you put your sanitation station right by the front door, your shoppers are probably going to end up walking right by it. This store, I'm going to go backwards, has this station just far enough inside that it's right at the point where people stop before they figure out if they're going to go right or left. That place where they stop is called a point of recognition. And that's where you want to set your sanitation station. And they did it properly and they did it well. It is a positive message. It is scant on text, but it's just enough. They didn't bury the headline. While visiting, please do these 3 things. It's not overwhelming. And then at the bottom, in smaller print, there's some additional information about what they're doing. So it is simple, it's understandable, and it's accessible. This is an example. There are 3 photos here. It was a lighting store that I went into. The first large photo that we have here shows that they have something similar like JP General had. You've got a sign and you've got the hand sanitizer and some Kleenex. This thing was so far in the store that I watched shoppers just kind of walk by it. At that point, they'd already looked at products left and right, that they got all the way to the counter before they realized, oh, I just missed the place I was supposed to stop and read. And it was kind of difficult to read what they had because it was a little bit too small of a print. It didn't necessarily stand out. So this was one of the things where it's the right idea. We wanted to tweak the execution so that there would be greater engagement and there would be a more effective exchange of information about what we would like you to do and then what we're doing for you in terms of how they created their signage, as opposed to, there's a hierarchy here. You're a JP General, welcome, first of all. Let's just say that. And then we go to these other things in terms of 1, 2, 3. So fine tuning. And this was another example. It's right idea. You have masks. A lot of times they say, please wear a mask if you have one. Well, what if you don't have one? They've provided you one. And so they're going the extra distance to say, I'm going to help you be safe and help my staff be safe. And they a little bit theatrical. They've got everything out sitting right there. The only downside is that if this were meant for customers to use, there's no signage, and it is right by the front door. So people generally just kind of blow right past it. So all those pieces could go further in the store with a little bit, with some signage if it was meant for shoppers to engage with. If it's not, then I would want to have staff stationed right nearby to personally welcome them and offer a mask. And this is okay, just fine. And you have a hand sanitizer, but there's lost opportunity for branding and welcoming and reassuring, but I'm glad it's there. We wanted to get into some specifics. I'm going to move, now that we're in the store, a lot of times we've heard people, a lot of individuals, you're going to have to, we need to reset your store. What exactly does that mean? Are you going to need to re-merchandise? Specifically, what does that mean? So what we did is we created a mock store, and the concept that we want you to remember out of all of this is we want you as a retailer to create islands versus aisles. And we have a fancy way of showing you. So on the aisle store, I drew a circle here for the decompression zone. People come in, and this X is the point of recognition. And the old layout was, here's the cash wrap over here. People would come in, they'd see this table, maybe a soft right, and then they would kind of wander through. Now, if I'm coming back here, that direction, and somebody was here coming this direction, days of old, we're going to have to pass each other, and we don't want that sort of close proximity anymore. And aisles also tend to create dead ends back here on the far right or the far left. Also, if somebody steps into the cubby here, that means somebody else, another shopper out here is going to have to wait before they can go inside. Instead, we took the same fixtures, we only lost one, and reset the store so that when people come in, they can still self-guide to the right, and we've got another table out here to stage merchandise on, but I can walk around this way while somebody else can move around, and we can have this choreography in the space. We can still have full product exposure because I can shop this side of the fixture while somebody else can shop that side of the fixture. And then I can move around here, and then this person can exit. So you want to give people lanes to travel through and not get stuck in a dead end. So the concept is islands here on the right versus aisles. And we lost the capacity of one fixture only. And so that to me is a worthwhile, that's a fair exchange in terms of maintaining sales per square foot. We also introduced here buy online, pick up in store, being a bit theatrical, but also very efficient. We have a storage shelf here right by the front counter. So for curbside pickup, the staff doesn't have to run that far back and forth in the store. And also it tells the shopper who's standing here at the cash wrap, oh, I could have called ahead and had him get the thing for me. And I can see it when I'm checking out. So I think it's good to have it at the front to show that you're doing it, you're offering that level of service, and it's also convenient for your staff to go back and forth for curbside pickup. I'm going to clear all my drawings, and let's get to the next. I just wanted to use the marker. No, that was fun. I think it was helpful. When we talked, we've seen a lot of signage that says stand 6 feet apart, but do we all know what 6 feet really is? And the usefulness of actually putting markers on the ground scattered at 6 foot intervals is a visual show versus telling me that I need to maintain 6 feet apart. And it also means too, when you end up placing them throughout, that I can end up while I'm waiting at the cash wrap, we don't have to create a hard and fast line for people to stand in to check out. If you are allowing multiple shoppers in at any given time, it lets them stand on any particular spot to be able to maintain their social distancing. So I think people need a visual reference to help reinforce, as opposed to just a sign. Because we're all like, what is 6 feet? It's the length of a bear. It's two lightsabers for the toy store. End to end. There's all sorts of fun ways to show what 6 feet is with the dots. This was the early, within a week, my coffee store, my coffee shop in my neighborhood had these blue dots on, or the blue tape on the floor. Absolutely functional, and then we can just kind of up our game from there. This was an example in Sherwin-Williams paint store. And it's just effective. If somebody departs their dot, you either stay on yours or move to another one. An elaborate game of Twister, moving around. Merchandising. So what's no-touch merchandising if we want to affect that? This store that I went into showed, they put a sign up that said, please refrain. And how they assisted me is that they turned the can around so that the ingredient list is accessible to me without having to pick it up to read it. So they knew that that is another piece of useful information. So they accommodated my need to gather that information by just turning the can around so I could read it. And I appreciated that the price was written on each of the cans as well. So I didn't have to hunt and find, I didn't have to go from a list of prices in one section back over to the product that's on the shelf. It was just right next to itself. The price is right on the product. And because price is important, I think where you can, if you're not able to turn things around, you could pull select merchandise out and put some signage right here to help explain what the price is and what it is that you're looking at, since I'm not going to be able to pick it up and read that myself. So there is going to be an increase in signage, and you've got to think about making sure the font size, what was the formula, is your age divided by 2. Wasn't that it? Yeah. So like if your target market and your primary shoppers are 80 years old, your font in your signage should be at least 40 points. So that's kind of a fun way to think about how big of a letter should you pick for your signs. This was a great example in a credit union of all places of no-touch merchandising. They pulled out a curated selection of things that they sell, and this is totally appropriate for a retail store. You know that there's just one, so if somebody does touch it, they can buy that one and you can simply replace it. And you tend to leave, when there's just one of something out, you tend to just leave it alone, because we're kind of, you don't want to mess the display up. But the pricing is absolutely readable, visible, right in front of your face. And so they've gathered, if you were a store, you gathered merchandise from different categories and put it all in one area so that I could see this whole family of products. And then they reinforce, please look with your eyes, not with your hands. But it was a great look, no touch merchandising approach that still allows me to shop and engage well enough with the merchandise. Sometimes retailers, when you have a product that's facing out, that it's called a face out versus a side out, and we can increase our density when we've done our visual merchandising. There are ways to put more product in your store based upon how you arrange it. But the old ways of doing that, sometimes you would have to have your shoppers kind of go through it to find the selection behind it. Re-merchandising your store might mean that you cull the slower moving, less profitable items, identify the things that people want now and are coming in for, and face out, front face what those selections are across. And this is an example of them front facing, and it takes more space to do that, but that will help facilitate me making a choice of the profit centers in your store. So that is one of the merchandising approaches that it literally says, you're going to have to re-merchandise your store to facilitate the type of shopping that we're doing right now. So this is an example of face outs. And mission shopping in the paint store, here's an example. People were coming in, there's the pickup zone. Great, I came to the pickup zone, let me get my paint. If they are uncomfortable or there are too many people elsewhere in the store, this store has accommodated suggesting an add-on sale by having all the things that they might need right there next to the cash wrap. It's organized well. There's one of everything. So I'll just take the one that I need. But it was a great way to try to facilitate an add-on sale without disrupting or delaying the mission shopper from coming in and getting what they want. And I thought this was a very well merchandised and very thoughtful display. And hopefully it is increasing some of those add-on sales that at the end of the day can add up. So I thought it was a good example of that. Safety for your staff and safety for customers in terms of the plexiglass that we're requiring, that is required now. This is absolutely functional. It's sitting on the counter. It's got the structures in it. People are going to help your staff avoid taping things to this, because it could, next thing you know, you're going to have stickers and Visa this and then Post-it notes on the other side of it. It's not a new surface for things to collect. It's just there to protect people, and it's tough to clean paper. Just keep the plexiglass clean and clear, and we'll be good. We like this is functional. This is functional too. It can kind of be overwhelming. Everything's outlined in red. We think it's just more elegant, if you can, to simply hang it from the ceiling. You don't even notice it's in there. These pictures, you really have to go, oh, what am I looking at? Oh, I see the plexiglass there. And it also leaves the counter absolutely unobstructed for an exchange, for placing of your product, and for wiping and whatnot. So I think it's minimalistic, but absolutely functional. So where you can, it would be great to be able to execute your barriers in this manner. So in the store, there are going to be there are opportunities to reset. Remember, islands versus aisles. Remember that you need to prioritize what your profit centers are and look for opportunities to do no-touch merchandising. And when you do that, bring the price forward and just think about product groupings and then clear the space around it so we can self-navigate, because we like to go where we want to go as shoppers. So there are strategies. It will mean there's probably some, you're going to have to remove the excess to provide access to the most important things. So there's that theme coming back in terms of the merchandising in the store. Access to the space, not an excess of fixtures, just to help guide your decision making when you're figuring out how to rearrange. And any other summaries you would add, Anne Marie, Luthro?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay, cool. So, summary of psychologically and physically, we've got to meet our shoppers and our customers where they are and quell their anxieties. We have to reach out to them, and we also have to be responsive and available for them to reach out to us. People are in that mindset of being I have a job. It's like sending dad to the grocery store to get milk. He's going to go get it. He's going to come back. We're all in that mode right now. And just help your shopper accomplish their mission. Outside commerce is going to be here for a while. It's where we feel safe, and it is safer in terms of transmission. So the outside of your store, the sidewalk and the windows have a it's very valuable real estate, and you need to know how to leverage those to your best advantage. So those are my big takeaways. Anne Marie, would you like to add anything else?